If you truly get in touch with a piece of carrot, you get in touch with the soil, the rain, the sunshine. You get in touch with Mother Earth, and eating in such a way, you feel in touch with true life, your roots, and that is meditation. If we chew every morsel of our food in that way, we become grateful, and when we are grateful, we are happy. My name is Leonora Alaniz, and I live here in Great Falls, also known as Turner's Falls. This exhibit has work in it that is up to 10 years old, and most of the work is about edibles, because that's the theme of the show. Let food be your medicine. But a large body of my work is other plants. And I am a textile designer, my first vocation. I learned that in my home country in Germany. And then I became a clothing designer. And after many years, I moved to New York City, meaning many years already being in textiles. And there I got a commission from Barney's to print napkins and placemats with leaves. And I said, sure, I will try to do that. And then the urban forest of Manhattan provided all the leaves for that. And I started to print on chiffon and created many, many scarves printed with thousands of leaves, then also for companies. This was in the 90s. And nature coming into the big urban areas and on textiles was quite a movement. So my money literally grew on trees. It was funny. And I made banners that I displayed in Central Park with 108 ginkgo leaves, very zen. And there are so many ginkgo trees in Manhattan that I fell in love with that tree, and I wrote the ode to the ginkgo trees. One ginkgo tree, 108 of its leaves, each one unique, expressively, part of one greater entity. 108 ginkgo trees lining the street, willfully present, each rooted as you and I, with purpose in shared destiny. Do you see their variety? Wind-moving trunk and branches, leaf whispers heard by you and me. When shade is yielding to the sun, they glide, absorbed with golden light, surrendering identity to the ground. Life and decay in seasons measured still by you and me, but the ginkgo tree, imbued with medicinal substance, it pledges timeless allegiance. O incarnate sum of consciousness, beholding infinite harmony. Ginkgo has medicinal qualities, and I cooked with the nuts from the plum from the ginkgo tree, and it is for the memory, performing miracles. So it is food for the brain. And I am very committed to publicize more about the incredible power that ginkgo biloba has in the plum and the inner nut. I am not a botanist, and I am learning about plants and all the anatomy, the many little parts, as I go along. Because after I discover a plant and print with it, then I research it and learn about its attributes and the whole anatomy, what female and male parts. It's very interesting. I call this image here the sassafras mandala because I took a branch and curled it around so the leaves are in a circular fashion. But the leaves were eaten by this beetle, by a whole colony, an invasion of green beetles that are not native to this country. I always liked the taste of fennel. I felt it was always very cleansing. And the more I looked into wholesome vegetables and read about it, the more I realized that fennel oil is very good. I grew up, we drank in the winter fennel tea, and it is it's the women's best friend, they say. One of the women's good friends. But it's very good for our digestive system, and probably a lot more. But I like the plant because it is so wild. And on this particular vegetable, the stalk is still up, a lot of it, so I could capture all of it. And to print with it, because it's a bulb, I had to slice it in half to get the inside. So it was quite wet, and I let it dry, blotted it every day, maybe for 3-4 days, and then I decided it was ready to be printed. So this is the inside we see, and here are the younger leaves, and the biggest challenge of that was it wanted to wiggle, it didn't lay flat, but I captured it eventually. So sometimes it takes several prints to tame the plant until it is flattened out enough so I can get a good image. But then there's the other thing that there might be too much ink on the plant and it gets too heavy and it droops down and it won't print for that reason. But I have played with that one with color, not Photoshop, but a less sophisticated program. And I got a lot of detail and color variations and still this little X-ray vision here. So that's one of my famous pieces, or favorite pieces. This image is the life size of a mullein leaf. It fell apart a little bit. I printed several times with it. I created the background by working on a glass plate that had ink on it, and then in these colors, mottled, and the leaf I inked it with blue, and the white is of the paper in the background. And it grew in Northern California, where everything grows bigger. The mullein don't grow as large here, New England. I like artichokes as a food, and I just learned it's a medicine too. I took the head, the flower of the artichoke, and I peeled it open. I cut the tips off and exposed it as the flower that it is. So this is the black and white version, and I printed it on organic cotton because I thought it was so homey to make it almost like a dishcloth, a really fancy one. And this is the reproduction, I thought, the original. And then I have another version of it that I like to show. This is the black and white print, hand-colored. I wanted something that expresses the life force of the plant. I made it very colorful. Of course, it never is like that in reality, but I think if we had the irises and the eyes of insects, a lot of the plants we see would be totally psychedelic. I am exploring to take these two-dimensional, sometimes monochromatic prints and put them into a computer-aided photo program, and even slight differences in the background become very colorful depending what I do. And it gave me the idea that if I had different eyes or different iris, different perception like insects do or some birds, I would probably see everything in nature very colorful and in completely altered colors and psychedelic. So that gives me now the courage to hand color and coax much, much more life into these detailed prints. They show a lot of detail, but always in 2 dimensions. So the color is just adding a new dimension, and it's with the help of technology. This says remove the stem halfway up, steam fall, 5 minutes, Fill the leaf as if it were sushi, overlapping the bottom flaps. Roll up and serve hot or cold. These two images are the identical leaf. This is early, and then this is actually a shadow image. My interest in vegetables particularly it began 10 years ago, because when I came to Massachusetts and I was exposed to all these agricultural products, what they were growing here, I was amazed about the variety. And just the kale variety, wow. So this staghorn kale I printed in black and white, and it looked like many skeletons, like an etching actually. But it had value on its own, and I printed a series where they all march across a horizontal line. But this one I thought I colored, and I used watercolor, and it took me many more hours to color that than to print with it. And so the color variations in here are quite amazing, and it's one of my prized pieces. This image here is a coltsfoot leaf that I hand colored after I realized it had a halo around it. It was first just black and white mostly, maybe a little bit of brown, but the white space around it, I made it golden, and so it was one of the first where I had a background on it and gave it the electric halo. This leaf I found in Germany, and I printed with it because of the shape of it, but also because my godmother was harvesting in the summer the coltsfoot leaves and wrapped them around her legs to soothe the varicose veins. She was a farm woman who worked very hard and knew a lot about plants in Bavaria. So in the gallery where we were before of the Discovery Center, there is a large papaya print framed in cherry wood, and it shows the seeds. It's in an oval background. I printed with papaya leaves a lot because I lived in a place where there was a greenhouse, and the papaya trees produced even fruit and certainly a lot of leaves. And I never grew tired of printing with them in all different sizes. So I made many prints, but in very different renditions. So here it is printed on a gold metallic foil paper. It's part of a triptych, and this has a circle. I am continuing to show the papayas here because not all of them can be exhibited at the Discovery Center where we were earlier. So this image here, printed on gold foil, is part of a triptych. I decided to print, because of the geometry of the leaf, to print it with a circle, gold and copper, and then here is the background white, and the copper is a triangle. And then there exists another print the paper is silver and it is a square golden triangle in it. But this is just to celebrate the incredible symmetry of the papaya leaf. I cannot say it in any other way but to celebrate it. Sometimes I'd have taken measurements, for example, of the trillium, and the distance from each tip to the next was exactly to the 1/8 of an inch the same. So how nature does this so exactly is amazing. Here is the leaf again in a totally different rendition. And here is another one. Which I call the Tibetan papaya leaf. It has gold and traditional Tibetan colors in it with the blue and green, orange, yellow, red. Unframed, but I have chosen a frame for it. It will be a good piece in the collection. I'm showing here two versions of the same plant, the nettle. And this is the first. There's a copper plate that I inked red and then put the black inked plant in front of it and then the paper on top. And this here is not inking the plate again, so it's a shadow. Putting another inked, or the same specimen, inked again on top, and we have now a shadow. And I really like the second one a lot because of the poem I wrote. Aware of the initial sting, I settle my mind and harvest bare-handed first chlorophyll of spring. More than skin deep, the nettle brings on pleasurable summer heat I longed for all winter. Walking through the wetlands, I found this plant. It's called swamp cabbage or skunk cabbage. It's native, and I was told that it's edible in its young stage. And I have never eaten it, but I plan to do that in the future, and maybe all of us have to learn to eat it. It was a regular staple for Native Americans. This is the first pull. Pull means when the paper is pulled from the platen or from the ink, from the palette, the surface. So the green was applied to an oval glass plate, and then the colored leaf was put on top, and then the white paper pulled off, pull number one. Then no more ink was applied, but another piece of paper was put on top, and I got this print. So second pull, first pull. Both of them have their qualities. Here I actually like the subtleness of the venation again. So all of this is shop talk. You all become here nature printers when this video is. Print I made of black cohosh I found in the woodlands in North Carolina. And it's quite stark with the venation. It's also large, the plant. I've seen online other photographs of it, and these leaves are quite large. So it's only black and white, and the work is not finished. And I will write text next to it, fill up the white space, write the name, put my chop on it. But it's a good document. And what I find too is, with all of these plant documentations online now, they're all photographs, not a single nature print. And yet, this tells a story about the plant too. Sometimes more so than the color photographs. You can really compare the venation from one plant to another. And I think, I know that venation, the way the veins are arranged, is a key for plant identification. The more I looked into all of this, I found out there was a nature printing society, and I found out that Leonardo da Vinci wrote the first instructions on how to imprint a leaf with lamp black on paper. And I said, okay, I'm in good company. If he did that, then I'm not just spinning my wheels and doing something that normally kids do in the kindergarten. And I discovered that nature printing is actually an art form that began with Leonardo, and it became big in the 17th century, actually in southwest of Germany, where the feudals supported some early botanists, and it became the rage to go out into the fields and with plant presses and then ink them. And this was before the Industrial Revolution, of course, but printing was really a technology that is like the computers today. So the more I looked into all of this, what could be done by printing with plants, I found out, of course, the fingerprint is the classic nature print, and you cannot reproduce that with a pen and a pencil, a brush. So I found that printmaking, which already had appealed to me since childhood, lino cuts, this was something that I could go far with. And the more I looked into the into the history of nature printing, the more I became adventurous too with the press, the way I press it, and I had to pre-press some plants and others not. And every plant turned out to challenge me in a new way, because they talk back. Some don't want to be flattened, and some are willing to cooperate. Some don't need any flattening at all. Straight from being harvested, I could print with them. And then I added the roots slowly, and I said, I want to see the whole plant. And the audience grew. I had actually success then in exhibiting this work, and I stopped printing so much on fabric. Now only if the paper isn't big enough for the plant, which happened in the tropics. And I have taught a lot of classes already. Greatest fun is to teach intergenerational classes while children are present. And the best one was when I still lived in New York City. It was in the Dana Center in Central Park. And families came from Harlem and with very young children, and they were on this printing with little children for 3 hours straight. Their attention span was absolutely phenomenal. And I took many photographs at the time. We took slides still, but it's not documented anywhere else. They printed banners and posters and interpreted all of this in those 3 hours in very, very personal and unique ways. And the interaction with parents and the children was so nice that I take that away, and I want to do it as often as possible. I enjoy teaching very much and would like to teach wherever people are interested. I can accommodate a maximum of 15 to 20 students, depending on the size. And I have taught usually at least half-a-day workshops. 1 hour is just not enough. So half-day workshops, even 2 days. And I will travel, and contact me through my email address at botanigraphica7@gmail.com. Actually, somebody else. Whoever wants this print needs to work. How about that? Yes, I would do the work. Please come over here. Who would like to have this print? Come on, it turned out pretty good. You want that? You want to do it? Sure. I will move this. Maybe you heard me talk about, you can start this hardness. Only go like that. And I'm going to print this one and something else. Oh, with the spoon, try to make circular, small circular motion. Yeah.
What's the?
Where does it cook?
Yeah, it's a cook.
It depends. If you have a good sense that you covered everything, you can peek.
And the ink should actually be coming through the paper, so.
It shouldn't,
Should.
and it depends also on what kind of paper it is.
Okay.